The open sea stretched endlessly, a vast and unpredictable expanse where survival was never guaranteed. For pirates of the early modern era, every day was a delicate balance between opportunity and danger, between fleeting moments of triumph and the ever-present threat of death. Unlike the romanticized tales that would later appear in books and films, the reality of life aboard a pirate ship was one of relentless hardship, constant uncertainty, and physical and mental strain. Sailors were exposed to the elements in ways most people today can scarcely imagine. Scorching sun by day, freezing winds by night, with no shelter except the ship's rigging and whatever tarpaulins they could improvise. Storms could strike without warning, tossing men and supplies alike into the churning waves, while the threat of disease loomed larger than any enemy vessel on the horizon. Food was scarce and often rotted, water was rationed, and sanitation was minimal. Pirates relied on preserved provisions, hardtack biscuits that turned to brick-like slabs, salted meat, and occasionally dried legumes. Fresh fruit and vegetables were a rarity, and scurvy, a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency, claimed the lives of many who could not find a port in time to resupply. Every day required vigilance, both in navigating the treacherous waters and in guarding against mutiny or rival crews. The chain of command was fragile, maintained by a mix of fear, respect, and agreed-upon codes of conduct that were more practical than moral. Yet, amid the brutality, there was strategy, skill, and camaraderie. Pirates were not merely reckless criminals. They were adaptive, resourceful, and intimately knowledgeable of the seas they plundered. They studied tides, winds, and currents, learned the habits of merchant ships, and developed intricate plans for boarding and capturing vessels. Success depended on discipline, coordination, and an understanding that each man's survival relied on the others. It was a life where a single mistake could be fatal, yet moments of triumph, successful raids, the acquisition of treasure, or the simple joy of a calm sea after a storm provided a rare but powerful sense of reward. This documentary will explore the realities of pirate life with precision and historical accuracy, revealing the physical, social, and psychological hardships these men endured. From the daily routines of work and navigation to the struggles against disease, starvation, and combat, viewers will witness a world where survival was an ongoing battle, where each decision could tip the balance between life and death. By examining both the external threats of the environment and the internal pressures of social hierarchy and discipline aboard pirate ships, we gain insight not only into the dangers of piracy, but also into the resilience and ingenuity that defined it. As we follow the lives of these maritime outlaws, a question arises: could anyone truly endure the daily hardships faced by pirates at sea? Or was survival reserved for those uniquely hardened by circumstance, skill, and sheer determination? The year was 1717, often called the height of the so-called Golden Age of piracy. Across the Atlantic and into the Caribbean, pirate ships roamed the trade routes, preying on merchant vessels laden with spices, sugar, and gold. These waters were the crossroads of commerce, culture, and danger, a place where the line between fortune and death was razor-thin. Life aboard a pirate ship began long before the first sight of another vessel. It started with the careful maintenance of the ship itself, a constant negotiation with the elements, and the ever-present risk that a minor error could lead to disaster. Pirates were not merely opportunistic thieves. They were skilled seamen, often former sailors who had endured harsh conditions on navy or merchant vessels. The transition to piracy offered them freedom, a share in the spoils, and a degree of democracy unknown on more disciplined ships, but it came with its own perils. Discipline was enforced differently, often through codes agreed upon collectively, yet failure or betrayal could result in violent reprisal. Mutiny was not a threat here. It was the reality of survival, a constant test of loyalty and skill. Every pirate understood that the ocean was an impartial judge, indifferent to ambition or courage. The scene opens aboard a weathered brigantine anchored just off a jagged, hidden reef in the Caribbean. Early morning light filters through fog, illuminating the damp, salt-slick decks. The crew moves with practiced efficiency. Men haul ropes, scrub the deck, and check the rigging. Below deck, the air is thick with the smell of sweat, brine, and unwashed bodies. The hold contains barrels of hardtack, salted meat, and casks of water rationed carefully. Rats scurry among the supplies, unbothered by the presence of men who have learned to coexist with the pests as a matter of practicality. This ship, like many others, is a floating microcosm of the outside world, compressed and intensified by the constraints of life at sea. Pirates live in close quarters, sleep wherever space allows, and work in shifts dictated by the rising and setting of the sun. Their days are filled with constant labor, steering the ship through shifting currents, keeping the sails taut, checking the anchor, and standing watch for both opportunity and threat. Nights offer little respite, as storms can appear suddenly, turning a calm sea into a churning, dangerous expanse. The sound of the wind whipping through the rigging, combined with the relentless creak of timber, becomes a constant companion, a reminder that the ocean is alive, unpredictable, and unforgiving. As dawn breaks, the captain, a man both feared and respected, calls the crew to gather. He reviews the route, points out nearby merchant ships, and delegates tasks. Decisions made in these moments carry consequences that could echo for days. A miscalculated maneuver might damage the ship, lose speed, or expose the crew to enemy fire. Yet amid the tension, there is a rhythm, a structure that ensures the survival of both men and vessel. The sense of shared purpose, born of necessity, creates bonds that are as essential as the sails and the anchor. Pirates' attire reflects both practicality and improvisation. Broad-brimmed hats shield eyes from the sun. Loose shirts allow freedom of movement, and heavy boots protect feet from splintered decks. Weapons are kept close. Cutlasses, pistols, and boarding axes serve as both tools and symbols of authority. Every piece of clothing, every tool, is essential for survival, adapted to the harsh realities of maritime life. The physical toll is immediate and relentless. Blisters, sunburn, salt-chapped skin, and exhaustion mark the bodies of those who endure each day. Below the surface of this routine, there is a subtler struggle, the fight against boredom, fear, and isolation. Life at sea is monotonous in its repetition, yet a single misstep, a misjudged wave, or a poorly tied knot can bring catastrophic consequences. Pirates develop resilience, ingenuity, and a reliance on instinct that becomes second nature. Even during moments of calm, the ocean teaches lessons about vigilance, patience, and humility. As the camera pans over the ship, viewers witness not only the labor but the humanity of those on board. Men laugh quietly over shared stories, sharpen blades, and maintain the fragile balance between camaraderie and conflict. This delicate equilibrium is constantly tested, revealing both the fragility and the strength of life in these confined spaces. From above deck to the hidden corners below, every creak of wood, every flutter of sail, every splash against the hull tells a story of endurance, adaptation, and relentless challenge. This introduction sets the stage for a deep exploration of pirate life, illuminating the harsh realities behind the romanticized myths. It prepares the viewer to understand the physical, social, and psychological demands of existence on the high seas, where survival is measured not in comfort or luxury, but in endurance, skill, and courage. By beginning with the daily routines, the environment, and the intricate social structures of a pirate crew, we enter a world both familiar and alien, a world governed by the rules of nature and necessity. As the scene fades to the horizon where sea meets sky, the question lingers: how did these men navigate the dangers, deprivation, and unpredictability of life at sea? And what strategies did they develop to survive where so many others failed? The answers lie in the daily hardships that shaped every decision, every action, and every moment of pirate life. Pirates did not emerge in a vacuum. Their rise was tied to the broader currents of global trade, naval warfare, and colonial expansion during the 17th and early 18th centuries. Merchant ships laden with good sugar from the Caribbean, spices from the East Indies, and silver from the Americas traveled predictable routes, often lightly defended or inadequately provisioned. These conditions created opportunities for men and women willing to operate outside the law, taking what they needed by force. Most pirates began as sailors, privateers, or naval men who had grown disillusioned with harsh treatment, low pay, or rigid hierarchies aboard official ships. Many had experienced severe discipline, starvation rations, and dangerous working conditions, leaving them uniquely prepared for the rigors of life at sea, but also primed to rebel against authority. The motivations behind piracy were as diverse as the crews themselves. Some sought wealth, aiming to capture treasure that could secure financial independence. Others were driven by a desire for freedom, a chance to escape oppressive governments or social constraints. Many saw piracy as a career path of survival, a response to the brutal economic and political realities of the time. Unlike the romanticized portrayals of adventure, pirate life was a calculated gamble. Those who survived relied on a combination of skill, knowledge, and luck. Each crew member understood that every raid, every navigational choice, and every interaction with other ships could determine life or death. Pirate crews were often more democratic than the ships they had left behind. Captains were elected and could be deposed if they failed to lead effectively, and shares of plunder were distributed according to agreed-upon codes. These codes, which varied by region and ship, often included rules for discipline, compensation for injuries, and even regulations for the treatment of prisoners. For example, a sailor who lost a limb in combat could receive a share of the loot as compensation, recognizing both the human cost of piracy and the practical need to maintain morale and loyalty. Such structures reflect a pragmatic, almost contractual approach to governance, grounded in the realities of survival rather than abstract ideals of justice. Geographically, pirates were concentrated in strategic regions where trade was dense but enforcement was inconsistent. The Caribbean, with its network of islands and hidden coves, offered ample opportunities for ambush and concealment. The waters off the coast of North America, West Africa, and the Indian Ocean similarly presented valuable targets for those willing to brave storms and naval patrols. Knowledge of these environments was essential. Pirate captains and navigators relied on charts, observation, and experience to identify the safest routes, the best hiding places, and the optimal moments for attack. Even minor errors in navigation could strand a ship on a reef or leave it vulnerable to enemy fire. Piracy was not without competition or consequence. Naval powers, particularly England, France, and Spain, frequently attempted to suppress piracy through patrols, blockades, and bounty systems. Merchant companies hired privateers, armed vessels authorized to capture enemy ships, blurring the line between legitimate warfare and criminal activity. Pirates had to navigate these political and military pressures while maintaining cohesion within their own ranks. The constant threat of capture or death shaped not only their daily routines, but also the codes of conduct, social hierarchies, and risk management strategies that defined pirate culture. Life at sea demanded adaptation. Pirates were acutely aware of the fragility of their existence and structured their routines to maximize survival. Every man had a role, from navigating and maintaining the ship to handling weapons and securing provisions. Knowledge was passed along through apprenticeship, oral instruction, and shared experience, creating a highly skilled workforce capable of responding to both predictable and unexpected challenges. The ability to improvise repairing a torn sail, rationing food, or treating injury with limited medical knowledge was a defining characteristic of successful crews. Despite the danger, pirates developed a culture rich with ritual, social norms, and practical innovation. Songs, storytelling, and informal ceremonies offered moments of respite, while established hierarchies ensured that disputes were managed before they became deadly conflicts. Shared hardships fostered trust, as the survival of the ship depended on coordinated effort and mutual reliance. Loyalty was essential, but so was pragmatism. A poorly performing or disruptive crew member could be marooned or otherwise removed to preserve the overall safety and efficiency of the vessel. Understanding the background of piracy allows us to contextualize the daily hardships these men faced. It was not merely the threat of combat that defined pirate life, but also the unrelenting physical, social, and environmental pressures of life at sea. From the scarcity of provisions and the threat of disease to the complexities of leadership and the constant need for navigation and strategy, pirates existed in a world that tested every aspect of human endurance. Their survival depended on skill, resilience, and an intimate understanding of both the sea and human nature. As this documentary unfolds, viewers will gain insight into the interplay between these historical realities and the lived experiences of pirates. By examining the economic, social, and environmental contexts that shape piracy, we can better appreciate the strategies, routines, and innovations that allowed these men to endure. The story of pirates is a story of adaptation, resourcefulness, and survival. Set against a backdrop of global trade, naval power, and the endless, unpredictable expanse of the sea. Even as we trace their strategies and hardships, a question lingers. How did these men navigate a world so full of danger, deprivation, and uncertainty? And what lessons does their survival offer for understanding human resilience in extreme conditions? The Caribbean Sea in the early 18th century was a complex and unpredictable environment, shaping both the opportunities and dangers of pirate life. Its warm waters, dotted with islands and hidden coves, offered refuge and strategic points for ambushes, yet the same geography could be treacherous for the unprepared. Coral reefs, shallow shoals, and sudden storms made navigation hazardous, especially for ships unfamiliar with local waters. Pirate captains relied on intimate knowledge of tides, currents, and wind patterns, often gained through years of experience or careful observation, to maneuver safely while avoiding both natural hazards and naval patrols. The climate presented its own challenges. Hurricanes and tropical storms could appear suddenly with devastating force. Ships that were sturdy under normal conditions could be overturned or wrecked in minutes. Rainfall was heavy and relentless at times, soaking decks, clothing, and provisions. Humidity and heat created conditions ripe for illness, from fevers and infections to outbreaks of dysentery and scurvy. Even the simplest tasks, hoisting sails, maintaining rigging, or cooking meals, became grueling under these conditions. Sunburn, heat exhaustion, and blistered hands were constant companions for those who spent their days exposed on deck. Political conditions also defined the environment in which pirates operated. European colonial powers, England, France, Spain, and the Netherlands competed for control of trade routes and colonies. Merchant ships were protected inconsistently, and enforcement varied by region. These gaps created opportunities for piracy but also required careful planning. Pirates had to be aware not only of natural hazards, but also of the shifting alliances and conflicts between empires. A ship safe in one port might face arrest or attack in another, making political awareness as critical to survival as skill in navigation or combat. Economically, the region was vibrant and highly connected. The sugar trade, rum production, and the transport of precious metals brought ships loaded with wealth into predictable paths across the sea. Pirates took advantage of these patterns, using knowledge of currents and shipping schedules to identify the most vulnerable targets. Yet the abundance of targets did not eliminate scarcity for those at sea. Fresh water was limited and provisions had to be carefully rationed. Pirates often scavenged from captured ships, local settlements, or makeshift caches hidden on remote islands. The environment demanded constant attention to logistics, forcing crews to adapt and improvise in order to survive. Life aboard the ship was tightly regulated by the realities of the environment. Space was confined, decks were slippery and crowded, and every rope and sail required careful maintenance. Even small mistakes could result in injuries or accidents, especially during storms or when boarding enemy vessels. Below deck, the environment was even harsher. Cramped sleeping quarters, poor ventilation, and the constant presence of vermin created unsanitary conditions that fostered disease. Illnesses spread quickly, and limited medical knowledge made treatment difficult. Crews learned to anticipate, mitigate, and endure these hazards, developing practices that maximized their chances of survival despite the challenging conditions. Life aboard a pirate ship demanded constant vigilance and unrelenting labor. From sunrise to sunset, every crew member had a role essential to the survival of both themselves and the vessel. Daily routines were structured around the necessities of maintaining the ship, monitoring the sea, and ensuring that resources were used efficiently. Men climbed rigging to adjust sails, scrubbed the decks to prevent rot and disease, repaired torn sails or damaged masts, and continuously monitored navigation instruments. Even during periods of relative calm, the work never truly ended, as neglect could result in disaster during the next storm or encounter with an enemy ship. Provisions were limited and carefully rationed. Hardtack biscuits, dense and long-lasting, formed the staple of a pirate diet, supplemented by salted meat, dried legumes, and the occasional fresh catch from fishing. Fresh water was stored in casks and distributed sparingly, with rationing adjusted based on voyage length and anticipated weather. Pirates understood that scarcity could quickly lead to malnutrition, dehydration, and disease, and strategies were developed to extend the life of provisions. Creative solutions, such as boiling water to reduce contamination, supplementing the diet with whatever could be foraged from captured ships, and carefully preserving perishable items were essential for survival. Hygiene was minimal and rudimentary, limited by the lack of fresh water and confined space. Washing was often performed in salt water, and clothing, when not being repaired or replaced, was rarely laundered. Infestations of lice and rats were common, and disease spread quickly in these conditions. Crew members developed routines to mitigate risk, such as ventilating sleeping quarters, inspecting food for spoilage, and isolating the sick when possible. Despite the harshness, these measures were vital. Neglect could decimate an already vulnerable crew. Shelter aboard the ship was equally harsh. Space below deck was cramped, dark, and suffused with the scent of salt, tar, and unwashed bodies. Hammocks or makeshift bedding offered little comfort, and storms made sleeping a perilous task. Above deck, pirates were exposed to sun, wind, rain, and cold, with little protection beyond their clothing and any tarps or improvised coverings they could arrange. Surviving the elements required not only resilience but also careful attention to clothing, gear, and the positioning of sails and lines during storms. Physical labor was intense and unending. Hoisting heavy sails, pumping bilges to remove water, and managing the rigging during storms demanded strength, coordination, and endurance. Injuries were common, from rope burns and blisters to cuts sustained during maintenance or combat. The ship's doctor, if present, had limited medical knowledge and tools, often relying on basic remedies, herbal treatments, or improvisation. Wounded pirates needed to rely on their comrades for care, while the severity of illness or injury could disrupt the entire routine of the ship. Pirates' survival also depended on sharp observation and quick thinking. They monitored the horizon constantly for merchant ships, naval patrols, or rival pirates, adjusting course and speed to maximize advantage or avoid danger. Navigation required knowledge of winds, currents, stars, and landmarks. Mistakes could leave the ship stranded, damaged, or vulnerable to attack. Every decision carried consequences, and the ability to anticipate challenges and respond effectively distinguished experienced crews from those destined to fail. Routines extended to social management as well. Leadership, discipline, and shared responsibility were essential. Tasks were allocated according to skill, experience, and physical capability, ensuring that every man contributed to survival. Codes of conduct established rules for fairness, rationing, and compensation, including rewards for injuries sustained in combat. These systems, though pragmatic rather than moral, helped maintain cohesion and minimize disputes that could compromise the ship's operation or morale. Even leisure time was adapted to survival. Music, storytelling, and games offered brief relief from monotony, serving as a psychological buffer against the constant stress of life at sea. These moments reinforced camaraderie, strengthened social bonds, and provided mental respite, allowing pirates to face the next challenge with renewed focus. Every aspect of daily life was intertwined with the imperatives of survival, demonstrating the delicate balance between work, rest, and strategic preparation. Through these routines, pirates developed skills and resilience that were essential for enduring the harsh realities of maritime life. From physical labor and navigation to rationing provisions and maintaining morale, every action contributed to the fragile ecosystem of life aboard a pirate ship. Understanding these daily practices illuminates not only the hardships endured, but also the ingenuity, adaptability, and resourcefulness that define survival at sea. Pirate ships, though often perceived as chaotic and lawless, operated within surprisingly structured social systems. Leadership, roles, and community norms were shaped by necessity, experience, and the constant presence of danger. Unlike naval or merchant vessels, which relied on rigid hierarchies and unquestioned obedience, pirate crews often embraced a more democratic approach. Captains were elected by their peers, and their authority depended on competence, judgment, and the respect of the crew. A captain who failed to navigate, lead, or protect effectively could be deposed, and in some cases replaced on the spot, highlighting the practical and performance-based nature of leadership at sea. Beneath the captain, roles were defined according to skill, experience, and physical capability. Quartermasters managed daily operations, including the division of plunder, maintaining order, and representing the crew in disputes with the captain. Navigators plotted courses and monitored the weather, while specialized crew members handled gunnery, maintenance, and repairs. This division of labor, though flexible, ensured that every member contributed meaningfully to the ship's survival. The structure was less about hierarchy for hierarchy's sake and more about functional efficiency, reflecting the constant pressures of life on the sea. Pirates also developed codes of conduct that reinforced social cohesion. These articles varied by ship and region, but often included rules for rationing food and water, fair distribution of loot, and compensation for injuries sustained in battle. Violations could result in punishment, ranging from fines to temporary confinement or, in extreme cases, marooning. The codes served multiple purposes. They reduced internal conflict, maintained morale, and provided a sense of fairness in a dangerous, unpredictable environment. They also created shared expectations, fostering trust among crew members who depended on one another for survival. Community dynamics extended beyond formal roles. Camaraderie and mutual reliance were essential to daily operations, as even minor errors could endanger the entire crew. Crew members relied on one another for physical tasks, such as raising sails, operating cannons, or repairing damage during storms. Social bonds, strengthened through shared risk and collective labor, were vital to the cohesion and effectiveness of the ship. Disputes were inevitable, but informal mechanisms, such as negotiation, mediation by the quartermaster, or appeals to the captain, helped maintain order without undermining the community's overall function. Pirate society also included unwritten social norms that influenced behavior. Loyalty, courage, and reliability were highly valued. A crew member who shirked duties or acted recklessly risked losing not only respect but also a share of survival itself. At the same time, adaptability, ingenuity, and the ability to endure hardship were recognized and rewarded. These norms helped shape behavior in ways that promoted both efficiency and the collective well-being of the crew. Pirates understood that the survival of each individual depended on the strength and cohesion of the group. Interactions with outsiders, including captured sailors, merchants, or local populations, were similarly structured by necessity. Pirates often adhered to pragmatic codes of conduct in dealing with prisoners, ensuring compliance while minimizing unnecessary conflict. Strategic alliances with other pirate crews or sympathetic local communities could provide critical resources, safe harbor, or intelligence. Such interactions required social intelligence, negotiation skills, and the ability to read both human and environmental cues. Family-like bonds emerged in these isolated, high-stress communities. Crew members often referred to one another as brothers or comrades, emphasizing solidarity and mutual protection. Rituals, shared meals, and collective celebrations reinforced these bonds, offering brief respite from the dangers of the sea. Even in conflict, these social mechanisms helped preserve group cohesion and ensured that the ship could function effectively under pressure. Despite their rough and often violent reputation, pirates demonstrated remarkable social adaptability. Hierarchies were practical, not symbolic, and norms emphasized competence, loyalty, and fairness. The social structure of pirate life was a product of the constant interplay between environmental pressures, economic motivations, and human necessity, reflecting the complex realities of survival in an unforgiving world. These structures allowed pirates to navigate not only the physical dangers of the sea, but also the interpersonal challenges inherent in confined, high-risk environments. Understanding this social framework is essential for appreciating how pirates endured the hardships of daily life while maintaining cohesion and operational effectiveness. Pirates were not merely opportunistic criminals. They were innovators in both technology and culture, often developing practical solutions to the challenges of life at sea. Their innovations were grounded in necessity, designed to improve efficiency, safety, and survival under extreme conditions. Ship modifications were among the most visible technological advancements. Pirates often captured vessels from merchant fleets, then altered their rigging, hulls, and sails to maximize speed, maneuverability, and cargo capacity. Lighter, faster ships allowed them to evade naval patrols, execute surprise attacks, and retreat when necessary. Innovations in rigging and sail management also facilitated rapid changes in direction and speed, giving pirate crews a tactical advantage in battle. Armament was another area of technological adaptation. Pirates equipped their ships with cannons, swivel guns, and small arms scavenged or stolen from captured vessels. Unlike naval ships, which relied on formal training and rigid gun placement, pirates developed flexible strategies for mounting and using weapons. Cannons were often repositioned for optimal coverage, and crews trained extensively in boarding tactics, grappling, and close-quarters combat. This practical, adaptive approach allowed pirate ships to engage larger or better-armed vessels successfully. The integration of weaponry with tactical maneuvers represented a form of improvisational engineering tailored to the unpredictable conditions of piracy. Pirates also adapted tools and materials for survival and daily operations. Navigation relied on both traditional instruments like compasses and astrolabes, and accumulated local knowledge of currents, winds, and coastal landmarks. Makeshift repairs were routine. Sails, ropes, and hulls were patched with whatever materials were available, from spare canvas to timber scavenged from wrecks. This resourcefulness extended to everyday life, as pirates fashioned cooking implements, storage containers, and shelters from limited supplies. Cultural innovations were equally significant. Pirate crews often developed unique codes of conduct, which functioned as both legal and social frameworks. These codes specified shares of plunder, compensation for injuries, and consequences for misconduct. effectively formalizing social and economic relationships. Such codification minimized disputes, maintained morale, and ensured operational efficiency. Beyond practical regulation, these codes reinforced a sense of shared identity and mutual responsibility, creating cohesion in an environment where trust was crucial for survival. Language, symbols, and rituals also played a role in pirate culture. Flags such as the iconic Jolly Roger communicated identity and intent, both intimidating targets and signaling allegiance or threat to other crews. Rituals including the division of spoils, ceremonial drinking, and informal songs strengthened bonds, provided psychological relief, and reinforced social hierarchies. These cultural practices, while seemingly symbolic, had concrete impacts on morale, cooperation, and efficiency. They were tools for managing human behavior under extreme stress, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of social dynamics. Health and hygiene practices reflected both technological and cultural adaptation. Pirates were aware of the risks posed by disease and spoiled food. Techniques such as salting meat, boiling water, and rotating food stores were common, as were practices for isolating the sick. While rudimentary by modern standards, these measures reduced mortality and preserved the effectiveness of the crew. Knowledge of medicinal herbs and home remedies, often shared among crew members, complemented these strategies, illustrating a blend of experiential learning and improvisation. Even navigation itself was a field of continuous innovation. Pirate captains combined formal training with experiential knowledge, relying on stars, tides, currents, and coastal features to plan routes. They developed strategies for concealing ships, hiding in coves, and approaching targets undetected. Innovations in signaling, lookout practices, and scouting enabled crews to anticipate threats and seize opportunities. Each of these adaptations reflected a deep understanding of the physical and human environment, translating knowledge into practical advantage. These technological and cultural innovations were inseparable from survival. They allowed pirates to operate effectively despite resource scarcity, environmental hazards, and constant threats from naval forces and rival crews. Adaptations in ship design, weaponry, navigation, daily practices, and social organization all contributed to the resilience and efficiency of pirate life. Pirates were thus not merely marauders, but pragmatic problem solvers, continually refining methods to meet the demands of a harsh and unpredictable world. By examining these innovations, viewers can appreciate the ingenuity and resourcefulness that defined pirate life. Their survival depended on a combination of skill, experience, and creativity, translating knowledge into action in ways that allowed them to endure and thrive under extreme conditions. This interplay of technology, culture, and adaptation is central to understanding the lived reality of piracy, revealing a sophisticated approach to challenges that might otherwise appear chaotic or random. Survival at sea demanded that pirates develop a wide range of strategies to navigate both environmental hazards and human threats. Their approach combined practical experience, collective decision-making, and improvisation. One fundamental strategy was vigilance, constant monitoring of the horizon, the weather, and the ship itself. Watches were established, often rotating every few hours, ensuring that someone was always alert to approaching vessels, shifts in wind or tide, and signs of danger. Early detection of threats allowed pirate crews to prepare for combat, evade capture, or adjust their course to avoid natural hazards. Adaptation to storms and rough seas was another critical strategy. Pirate crews became adept at reading clouds, wind patterns, and currents to anticipate sudden changes in weather. They developed methods for securing cargo, reinforcing sails and rigging, and managing ballast to stabilize the ship. In severe conditions, coordination and teamwork were essential, as a single error could result in capsizing, damage, or injury. Experience played a crucial role, as seasoned pirates recognized patterns and signs that less experienced sailors might overlook, giving them an edge in survival. Resource management was equally vital. Pirates faced limited provisions and relied on careful rationing to maintain health and strength. Freshwater, salted meat, and hardtack had to be conserved, while opportunities to supplement supplies through fishing, foraging, or captured goods were maximized. Strategic planning extended to the acquisition of resources, as pirates often timed attacks on merchant vessels based on both opportunity and necessity, ensuring that their crew could sustain itself for the duration of a voyage. Such foresight required both calculation and flexibility, as circumstances frequently changed with little warning. Combat strategies were refined to balance risk and reward. Pirate crews emphasized surprise, speed, and coordination when attacking merchant ships or rival vessels. Boarding tactics, the use of grappling hooks, and coordinated cannon fire were all part of a system designed to neutralize threats quickly. Pirates also relied on psychological strategies such as the display of flags, intimidation, and feigned retreats to gain an advantage without unnecessary loss of life or damage to the ship. Effective planning minimized casualties while maximizing plunder, demonstrating a pragmatic approach to warfare on the high seas. Internal cohesion was maintained through clearly defined social codes and shared responsibilities. Pirates adhered to articles that distributed loot fairly, established punishments for breaches, and compensated injuries, ensuring that morale remained high even under extreme conditions. Conflict resolution within the crew relied on negotiation and the authority of elected leaders, such as the captain or quartermaster. Maintaining trust and cooperation was essential, as the failure of one individual could compromise the safety and effectiveness of the entire ship. This combination of social strategy and operational discipline allowed crews to function efficiently under stress. Navigation and concealment were critical survival strategies. Pirates studied maps, observed currents, and memorized coastlines to avoid patrols and optimize their routes. Hidden coves and uninhabited islands provided temporary refuge for repairs, resupply, and shelter. Such geographic awareness allowed pirates to strike unpredictably while minimizing exposure to superior naval forces. Understanding the environment and using it strategically was a hallmark of successful piracy, combining practical knowledge with careful observation and planning. Health strategies were also integrated into daily routines. Crews monitored diet, hygiene, and rest to mitigate the impact of disease and injury. Isolation of sick crew members, basic medical treatments, and preventive practices reduced mortality and maintained operational capacity. Pirates understood that maintaining the physical and mental well-being of the crew was not optional but essential for survival and success. Finally, adaptability was central to every strategy. Pirates constantly evaluated threats and opportunities, adjusting plans in response to changing circumstances. Flexibility allowed them to exploit weaknesses in enemy ships, respond to unexpected weather, or manage sudden shortages of provisions. The combination of foresight, adaptability, and experience enabled pirate crews to endure hardships that would have defeated less resilient individuals. Through these strategies, pirates transformed the dangers of the sea into a domain in which skill, coordination, and ingenuity dictated survival. Each approach, whether in combat, navigation, resource management, or social cohesion, demonstrated an understanding of both human and environmental factors. The survival of a pirate crew depended not only on courage and strength, but also on careful planning, collective intelligence, and the continuous adaptation to a harsh, unpredictable world. By examining these strategies, it becomes clear that pirate life was not merely chaotic or impulsive. Survival required deliberate action, informed by experience and shaped by necessity. Each challenge, from storms and scarcity to rival ships and internal conflict, was met with a combination of skill, planning, and adaptability, revealing the sophisticated methods that allowed pirates to endure under extreme conditions. Pirate history was marked by moments that fundamentally shaped both individual careers and the broader culture of piracy. These events often arose from encounters with powerful naval forces, unexpected environmental hazards, or sudden opportunities for immense profit. The capture of a richly laden merchant vessel, for example, could elevate a crew from hardship to wealth almost overnight, influencing social hierarchies, morale, and the reputation of the ship. Such moments were high stakes and often irreversible, with success bringing reward and failure frequently resulting in death or capture. Naval crackdowns represented a critical turning point in pirate activity. European powers, recognizing the economic threat posed by piracy, organized fleets to patrol shipping lanes and suppress pirate strongholds. These campaigns often forced pirate crews to adapt, relocate, or alter their methods. The destruction of a major pirate haven could scatter crews, forcing them to integrate with other groups or abandon piracy altogether. Conversely, the survival of certain ships or crews despite these crackdowns created legends that inspired others, reinforcing pirate culture and demonstrating the delicate balance between risk and opportunity. Environmental events also shaped pirate history. Severe storms could destroy entire fleets, leaving only the most resourceful and experienced sailors alive. Shipwrecks sometimes resulted in unexpected encounters with local populations, new trade opportunities, or access to hidden coves that became bases for future operations. Knowledge of seasonal weather patterns, currents, and tides could make the difference between a profitable voyage and disaster. These natural turning points emphasized the dependence of pirates on both skill and luck, illustrating that survival was never guaranteed, no matter the crew's competence. Internal revolts or leadership changes were another defining factor. Captains who failed to command respect or demonstrate competence could be replaced through election or mutiny, altering the course of a crew's journey. Such transitions, while potentially disruptive, often reinforced merit-based leadership, ensuring that the most capable individuals guided the ship. Similarly, disputes over plunder distribution or breaches of conduct could escalate, resulting in temporary instability but ultimately contributing to the establishment of stronger social norms and operational procedures. These internal dynamics shaped not only the immediate fate of the crew but also the evolution of pirate society. Legal developments in European and colonial courts also acted as turning points. The introduction of stricter anti-piracy laws, increased bounties for capture, and international cooperation in law enforcement created new pressures on pirate operations. Some pirates sought pardons or reintegration into legitimate society, while others intensified their resistance or relocated to more remote regions. These legal pressures influenced the geographic and social distribution of piracy, demonstrating the interplay between law, economy, and individual decision-making. The capture or death of prominent pirate figures often shifted the balance of power among crews. Notable leaders, known for tactical genius or charisma, could unite disparate groups, control lucrative trade routes, and instill loyalty and discipline. Their removal, whether through battle, betrayal, or execution, disrupted established networks and created opportunities for emerging leaders. These personal turning points had ripple effects, influencing local economies, maritime security, and the development of pirate culture itself. Economic events were equally significant. Wars in Europe and the Americas disrupted trade and naval deployments, opening temporary windows for piracy to thrive. Conversely, peace treaties and restored shipping routes could limit opportunities and increase risk, forcing crews to adapt by changing targets, routes, or methods. The ebb and flow of global trade had a direct and immediate impact on pirate livelihoods, emphasizing the interconnectedness of local action and broader economic forces. In each of these instances, pirate survival and culture were influenced by a combination of opportunity, skill, and adaptability. Captures, battles, storms, leadership changes, and legal pressures created both immediate consequences and long-term effects on the organization, strategy, and social structure of pirate crews. Turning points were rarely isolated. They were embedded within a network of interdependent factors that shaped the trajectory of pirate life. Understanding these significant events provides insight into the dynamic and precarious nature of piracy. Pirates were constantly navigating a shifting landscape, responding to threats and seizing opportunities with equal intensity. The most successful crews were those who recognized pivotal moments, adapted effectively, and capitalized on circumstances while mitigating risk. These turning points illuminate not only the dangers and rewards of pirate life, but also the resourcefulness, resilience, and strategic intelligence that enabled crews to endure in an unforgiving maritime world. Archaeological and historical records provide invaluable insight into the lives of pirates, offering concrete evidence of their practices, technology, and social organization. Shipwrecks, recovered artifacts, and documented accounts illuminate the harsh realities of piracy and confirm aspects of daily life, strategy, and culture that might otherwise remain speculative. These sources allow historians to reconstruct routines, understand the material conditions aboard pirate ships, and verify the broader context of maritime life during the golden age of piracy. Shipwrecks, in particular, serve as a window into pirate life. Excavations of vessels identified as pirate ships reveal modifications that were both practical and tactical. Hull reinforcements, altered rigging, and hidden compartments suggest deliberate adaptations for speed, maneuverability, and concealment of plunder. The presence of cannons in strategic positions, as well as small arms, grappling hooks, and other boarding equipment, provides evidence of the methods pirates used during attacks. Even the arrangement of living quarters with hammocks and storage areas confirms the cramped, communal living conditions described in historical accounts. Recovered artifacts also highlight daily survival strategies. Hardtack, cooking utensils, storage containers, and preserved food remnants illustrate how pirates managed limited provisions during long voyages. Personal items, such as clothing, tools, and makeshift medical supplies, reveal improvisation and resourcefulness. Archaeologists often find evidence of repairs made with scavenged materials, reinforcing the notion that pirate crews adapted continuously to changing conditions and limited resources. These tangible remnants offer a direct connection to the practical challenges of life at sea. Coins, trade goods, and other loot recovered from shipwrecks or pirate strongholds provide evidence of economic activity and social organization. The distribution of wealth, as inferred from hoards or caches, aligns with documented codes of conduct, confirming that pirates often divided plunder according to agreed-upon rules. Legal documents, court proceedings, and letters further support these practices, revealing the structure and enforcement of agreements within pirate communities. Such records also provide context for interactions with local populations, merchant vessels, and naval authorities. Historical narratives, including diaries, logs, and eyewitness accounts, complement physical evidence. Captains' logs, naval reports, and trial transcripts describe encounters, navigational practices, and the behavior of crews under duress. Cross-referencing these written sources with archaeological findings allows historians to confirm patterns in ship design, armament, and daily routines. Even biases in these accounts can be instructive, offering insight into how pirates were perceived by contemporaries and how fear, exaggeration, or admiration shaped their historical image. Evidence from port towns and pirate havens contributes additional context. Ruins of settlements, warehouses, and docking facilities illustrate how pirates organized logistics, resupplied vessels, and engaged in trade. Artifacts such as tools, coins, and imported goods demonstrate the integration of pirates into wider economic networks, despite their reputation for lawlessness. These findings highlight the interplay between piracy and commerce, revealing that pirate success depended not only on naval skill, but also on the ability to navigate social, political, and economic systems. Medical and hygiene practices can also be inferred from records and material evidence. Archaeologists examine skeletal remains for signs of malnutrition, injury, or disease, which reveal both the physical toll of piracy and the adaptive strategies employed to mitigate these risks. Evidence of herbal remedies, makeshift surgical tools, and treated wounds corroborates written descriptions of crew care. These findings emphasize the importance of health management for operational effectiveness and survival. Finally, patterns in geographic distribution of pirate activity are supported by records of encounters, shipwrecks, and recovered artifacts. Concentrations of pirate material along trade routes, coastal hideouts, and key maritime choke points demonstrate strategic considerations in selecting operational zones. Combined with climatic and oceanographic data, these findings illuminate the calculated risk-taking that underpin pirate operations, confirming that their activities were guided by practical knowledge rather than randomness or chance. Through archaeology and historical documentation, the lives of pirates are revealed as a blend of ingenuity, resilience, and adaptation. Material evidence substantiates accounts of hardship, community structure, and strategic behavior, while written records provide narrative context for interpreting artifacts. Together, these sources offer a detailed, multidimensional understanding of pirate life, bridging the gap between myth and reality. They demonstrate that pirates were not merely chaotic raiders but organized, resourceful communities capable of overcoming severe challenges in an unforgiving maritime environment. To fully understand the nature of piracy, it is helpful to compare pirate communities with other maritime groups and historical periods. While pirates are often portrayed as lawless outlaws, a closer examination reveals that their organization, strategies, and survival mechanisms bear both similarities and contrasts with naval crews, merchant sailors, and even privateers of the same era. These comparisons highlight the unique adaptations that distinguish pirates while situating them within the broader maritime context. Naval crews, for example, operated under strict hierarchical structures with rigid discipline enforced by officers. Obedience was non-negotiable, and deviation from orders often led to severe punishment, including flogging or imprisonment. Pirates, by contrast, favored a merit-based hierarchy, where captains were elected and could be deposed if they failed to lead effectively. While naval discipline relied on fear and legal authority, pirate organization relied on competence, mutual respect, and enforceable codes of conduct. This contrast underscores the adaptability of pirates in creating functional social systems suited to the high-risk environment of irregular warfare and long sea voyages. Merchant sailors faced challenges similar to pirates, such as storms, disease, and limited provisions, but their objectives were fundamentally different. Profit and trade were primary, and operational strategies focused on safe navigation rather than combat. Pirates, in contrast, integrated economic goals with the constant necessity of self-defense, raid execution, and improvisation. While both groups developed navigation skills, knowledge of currents, and weather patterns, pirates combined these abilities with tactical combat strategies and rapid decision-making to survive and profit. The dual role of pirate crews as both sailors and combatants required a level of flexibility and risk management that distinguished them from more conventional maritime workers. Privateers offer another useful comparison. These state-sanctioned seafarers operated with legal authorization to attack enemy ships during wartime. Like pirates, privateers engaged in combat and captured vessels, but their actions were legitimized and supported by governments, providing a degree of protection and political backing. Pirates lacked such official sanction, operating in a gray area where legal risk was constant. Despite this, pirate crews often mirrored privateers in tactics, ship modifications, and organizational structure, demonstrating that the practical challenges of maritime life led to similar solutions regardless of legal status. The key difference lay in autonomy. Pirates exercised complete control over their operations and profits, whereas privateers were bound by the terms of their commissions and obligations to the state. Comparing pirates across different regions and periods further illuminates adaptation and innovation. Caribbean pirates of the 17th and 18th centuries developed strategies suited to tropical climates, shallow waters, and dense shipping lanes. In contrast, Mediterranean corsairs faced different environmental pressures, including variable wind patterns, heavily patrolled waters, and interactions with multiple empires. Despite differences in geography and political context, commonalities in social structure, codes of conduct, and tactical improvisation are evident. Pirates consistently prioritized cohesion, resourcefulness, and speed, adapting these principles to the unique challenges of their operating environment. Pirate technology and ship modifications also reflect regional and temporal adaptations. Caribbean pirates favored small, fast sloops capable of rapid maneuvering, while European pirates or corsairs often relied on larger, heavily armed vessels for open sea engagements. Differences in armament, rigging, and ship layout illustrate a consistent pattern. Piracy evolved in response to environmental constraints, available resources, and prevailing naval threats. The underlying principle was survival and operational efficiency, achieved through localized innovation and experiential learning. Socially, pirates differed significantly from other maritime groups in their democratic practices and shared economic arrangements. Naval crews and merchant sailors followed strict hierarchies, while pirates emphasized collective decision-making, equitable distribution of loot, and compensation for injuries. These practices fostered loyalty and cooperation in a dangerous, isolated environment. Comparisons with other societies highlight that the necessity of trust and cohesion in confined, high-risk conditions often led to similar social innovations, but pirate communities implemented them with a notable emphasis on autonomy, negotiation, and enforceable agreements. In terms of daily survival, pirates also shared certain strategies with earlier or contemporary seafaring groups, such as rationing food and water, improvising repairs, and managing health risks. However, the constant threat of violence, combined with irregular access to supplies, made adaptability and resourcefulness far more critical for pirates. They developed specialized knowledge of local waters, hidden coves, and trade routes, giving them strategic advantages over less mobile or less informed crews. Overall, comparisons with naval crews, merchant sailors, privateers, and regional pirate groups demonstrate that while pirates faced many of the same environmental and logistical challenges, they responded with unique social, tactical, and technological adaptations. Their success depended on a combination of ingenuity, flexibility, and collaborative governance, setting them apart in both practice and culture. These comparisons reveal that piracy was not random or chaotic, but a sophisticated, adaptive response to a demanding and often hostile maritime environment. To fully understand the nature of piracy, it is helpful to compare pirate communities with other maritime groups and historical periods. While pirates are often portrayed as lawless outlaws, a closer examination reveals that their organization, strategies, and survival mechanisms bear both similarities and contrasts with naval crews, merchant sailors, and even privateers of the same era. These comparisons highlight the unique adaptations that distinguish pirates while situating them within the broader maritime context. Naval crews, for example, operated under strict hierarchical structures with rigid discipline enforced by officers. Obedience was non-negotiable, and deviation from orders often led to severe punishment, including flogging or imprisonment. Pirates, by contrast, favored a merit-based hierarchy, where captains were elected and could be deposed if they failed to lead effectively. While naval discipline relied on fear and legal authority, pirate organization relied on competence, mutual respect, and enforceable codes of conduct. This contrast underscores the adaptability of pirates in creating functional social systems suited to the high-risk environment of irregular warfare and long sea voyages. Merchant sailors faced challenges similar to pirates, such as storms, disease, and limited provisions, but their objectives were fundamentally different. Profit and trade were primary, and operational strategies focused on safe navigation rather than combat. Pirates, in contrast, integrated economic goals with the constant necessity of self-defense. raid execution, and improvisation. While both groups developed navigation skills, knowledge of currents, and weather patterns, pirates combined these abilities with tactical combat strategies and rapid decision-making to survive and profit. The dual role of pirate crews as both sailors and combatants required a level of flexibility and risk management that distinguished them from more conventional maritime workers. Privateers offer another useful comparison. These state-sanctioned seafarers operated with legal authorization to attack enemy ships during wartime. Like pirates, privateers engaged in combat and captured vessels, but their actions were legitimized and supported by governments, providing a degree of protection and political backing. Pirates lacked such official sanction, operating in a gray area where legal risk was constant. Despite this, pirate crews often mirrored privateers in tactics, ship modifications, and organizational structure, demonstrating that the practical challenges of maritime life led to similar solutions regardless of legal status. The key difference lay in autonomy. Pirates exercised complete control over their operations and profits, whereas privateers were bound by the terms of their commissions and obligations to the state. Comparing pirates across different regions and periods further illuminates adaptation and innovation. Caribbean pirates of the 17th and 18th centuries developed strategies suited to tropical climates, shallow waters, and dense shipping lanes. In contrast, Mediterranean corsairs faced different environmental pressures, including variable wind patterns, heavily patrolled waters, and interactions with multiple empires. Despite differences in geography and political context, commonalities in social structure, codes of conduct, and tactical improvisation are evident. Pirates consistently prioritized cohesion, resourcefulness, and speed, adapting these principles to the unique challenges of their operating environment. Pirate technology and ship modifications also reflect regional and temporal adaptations. Caribbean pirates favored small, fast sloops capable of rapid maneuvering, while European pirates or corsairs often relied on larger, heavily armed vessels for open sea engagements. Differences in armament, rigging, and ship layout illustrate a consistent pattern. Piracy evolved in response to environmental constraints, available resources, and prevailing naval threats. The underlying principle was survival and operational efficiency, achieved through localized innovation and experiential learning. Socially, pirates differed significantly from other maritime groups in their democratic practices and shared economic arrangements. Naval crews and merchant sailors followed strict hierarchies, while pirates emphasized collective decision-making, equitable distribution of loot, and compensation for injuries. These practices fostered loyalty and cooperation in a dangerous, isolated environment. Comparisons with other societies highlight that the necessity of trust and cohesion in confined, high-risk conditions often led to similar social innovations, but pirate communities implemented them with a notable emphasis on autonomy, negotiation, and enforceable agreements. In terms of daily survival, pirates also shared certain strategies with earlier or contemporary seafaring groups, such as rationing food and water, improvising repairs, and managing health risks. However, the constant threat of violence, combined with irregular access to supplies, made adaptability and resourcefulness far more critical for pirates. They developed specialized knowledge of local waters, hidden coves, and trade routes, giving them strategic advantages over less mobile or less informed crews. Overall, comparisons with naval crews, merchant sailors, privateers, and regional pirate groups demonstrate that while pirates faced many of the same environmental and logistical challenges, they responded with unique social, tactical, and technological adaptations. Their success depended on a combination of ingenuity, flexibility, and collaborative governance, setting them apart in both practice and culture. These comparisons reveal that piracy was not random or chaotic, but a sophisticated, adaptive response to a demanding and often hostile maritime environment. Pirates developed a distinct set of cultural beliefs and rituals that reflected both their precarious lifestyle and the need for cohesion in isolated, high-risk environments. While outsiders often depicted pirates as lawless and chaotic, archaeological and historical evidence reveals structured practices that reinforce social bonds, maintained morale, and provided psychological stability in the face of constant danger. These cultural systems were intertwined with practical concerns, blending symbolism, superstition, and shared experience to create a resilient maritime subculture. One of the most recognizable symbols of pirate culture was the flag, often the Jolly Roger or variations thereof. These flags served multiple purposes, signaling identity, conveying intent, and psychologically influencing opponents. The sight of a pirate flag could induce fear and compliance, allowing crews to achieve objectives with minimal violence. Beyond intimidation, the flag reinforced internal cohesion, reminding crews of their shared mission, allegiance, and collective identity. Its display was often accompanied by ritualized practices, such as hoisting the colors at dawn, before boarding, or after capturing a prize, establishing a sense of ceremony and continuity. Rituals surrounding plunder were also significant. Division of loot followed codified articles, specifying shares based on rank, contribution, and injury. This process was often formalized through ceremonies that included public acknowledgement, speeches, or symbolic gestures, reinforcing fairness and reducing disputes. For injured or disabled crew members, compensation was provided according to pre-agreed rules, demonstrating a structured approach to social welfare. These rituals not only maintained order, but also strengthened the sense of community, ensuring that each member understood their rights and responsibilities. Daily routines carried ritualistic elements as well. Certain tasks, such as cleaning, maintenance, or cooking, were performed in consistent patterns, providing stability in an otherwise unpredictable environment. Meal times, watch rotations, and the sharing of stories or songs created rhythm and structure, reducing stress and enhancing cooperation. Oral storytelling, including accounts of previous voyages, successful raids, and narrow escapes, served both as entertainment and as a means of transmitting practical knowledge, reinforcing cultural memory, and instilling a shared sense of identity. Superstitions and beliefs played a subtle but important role in pirate culture. Sailors often observed omens, carried talismans, or adhered to rituals intended to ward off misfortune. While these practices might appear irrational, they function psychologically to reduce anxiety and foster group cohesion. For example, certain behaviors before battle, such as touching a specific part of the ship or reciting protective phrases, provided a sense of control over uncertain outcomes. These beliefs were embedded in daily practice, blending superstition with pragmatic decision-making to enhance morale and focus.